The Reckoning of Judge Avery Coleman. It was the kind of evening Judge Avery Coleman cherished, the kind that reminded him why he'd worked so hard to earn peace. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow across the oak-lined streets of Maplewood Heights. His windows were down, letting a gentle spring breeze as Miles Davis played low on the stereo of his black Lexus ES 350. The air smelled of cut grass and blooming dogwoods, familiar, comforting. Avery, now 64, had spent a lifetime navigating the trenches of American law. A federal appellate judge, respected throughout Georgia and beyond, he'd become known for rulings that challenged deeply rooted injustices, decisions that often earned him admiration from civil rights advocates and silent resentment from those clinging to old systems. He didn't mind the enemies. He understood that justice rarely moved forward without resistance. Born in the heart of Atlanta's South Side, Avery came from humble roots. His mother, a librarian, and his father, a welder, raised him on three principles: dignity, work, and wisdom. Every case he presided over, every judgment he rendered, was anchored in the moral compass instilled in him by those early lessons. So on this particular night, as he took the scenic route home through Maplewood Heights, a neighborhood he'd chosen not for prestige, but for peace, his mind was still processing the courtroom tension from earlier in the day. A young black man, just 21, had been wrongly accused of armed robbery. Avery had overseen the case personally and dismissed it with a stern rebuke to the prosecution for their lack of evidence. Justice had prevailed, for once. But justice, Avery knew, wasn't immune to interruption. He was 3 blocks from home when the red and blue lights appeared in his rearview mirror. At first, he didn't react. He wasn't speeding. His registration was current. There had to be a mistake. Still, he eased off the gas and pulled to the curb beneath a sprawling oak. The siren wailed once before cutting off abruptly. Avery turned off the stereo, rolled down his window, and placed both hands on the steering wheel, palms up. His heart rate ticked up, not out of fear, but out of understanding. He knew how these things could go. The officer approached, tall, broad, her frame cutting a stern silhouette under the flashing lights. She wore wraparound sunglasses, even as dusk deepened. Her nameplate read, Officer L. Brenner. License and registration, she barked. No greeting. No explanation. Avery kept his tone even. Certainly, officer. May I ask what the stop is regarding? License and registration, she repeated, this time her hand drifting closer to her holster. Avery's movements were slow, deliberate. He retrieved the documents from the glove box and handed them over. My name is Judge Avery Coleman, he said calmly. This is my vehicle. I live just 3 blocks that way, on Sycamore Court. Officer Brenner didn't even glance at the papers before stepping back. Step out of the vehicle. Avery blinked. Pardon? You heard me, she snapped. Out. Now. He paused. Officer, I complied with your request. I'd like to know the cause for this escalation. This car matches the description of a vehicle reported stolen last week. Step out. Avery stared at her. He had heard that line used 100 times in court, often enough to know when it was an excuse, not a reason. But he stepped out. The door closed behind him with a soft thud. The sun had fully set now, casting long shadows across the street. The soft hum of insects and distant wind chimes were the only witnesses to what came next. Face the vehicle, she ordered. Avery did, placing his hands on the hood, palms down. Officer Brenner circled the car, flashlight beam sweeping across every surface. Within minutes, another squad car pulled up. A second officer, younger and visibly uncertain, stepped out. His name tag read, Officer J. Trenton. What's going on? Trenton asked, his voice low. Following protocol, Brenner snapped. Matches a bolo from last week. Trenton's eyes flicked to Avery, who remained calm but firm. Officer Trenton, he said, if you run my plates, you'll see this vehicle is registered to me. My ID matches the address. This is a mistake. Brenner was already moving toward the trunk. Search it, she ordered. Trenton hesitated. Do we have probable cause? I said search it. With trembling hands, Trenton opened the trunk. Inside was the emergency kit, a neatly folded blanket, a pair of jumper cables, and a black duffel bag Avery had never seen in his life. "What is this?" Trenton muttered, lifting it out. The bag was unzipped. Inside, several bundles of cash and 3 plastic baggies filled with a white powdery substance. Brenner's smirk was instant. "Looks like we found something," she said. "That's not mine," Avery said, his voice cool but burning. "That bag is not mine." "Of course it isn't," Brenner said mockingly. "You judges carry duffel bags full of cash and narcotics all the time." Trenton looked increasingly uneasy. "You planted that," Avery said. "You're framing me." "Turn around," Brenner ordered, hand on her cuffs. Before she could move, a screen door creaked open across the street. Evelyn Clark, Avery's longtime neighbor, called out from her porch. "Hey, what's going on?" Lights flickered on in nearby homes. Curtains shifted. The community was waking up. "That's Judge Coleman," Evelyn shouted. "What the hell are y'all doing?" Others emerged, phones already recording. "You planted that," someone yelled. "Run the damn plates." Brenner's posture tightened. "Back in your homes," she yelled, but her voice wavered. Trenton's radio crackled. "Dispatch confirms vehicle is registered to Judge Avery Coleman. No reports of theft." Silence. Then, a slow murmur from the crowd. "Get her badge number. Why ain't y'all apologizing?" Brenner stood frozen. Her smirk was gone. The narrative she'd tried to control was slipping. "And Avery?" He didn't move. "I told you," he said quietly. "You made your judgment the moment you saw me. But now the truth's on your doorstep." Captain Marcus Lowell arrived minutes later, his cruiser parting the crowd like a ship cutting waves. He stepped out, scanned the scene, the duffel bag, the trunk, the man he recognized instantly. "Judge Coleman," he said, "what the hell is happening here?" "You tell me," Avery replied. Lowell turned to Brenner. "Did you verify his ID before ordering a search?" "No," she muttered. Lowell's voice dropped. "Did you get probable cause?" You thought wrong." The captain turned to the crowd. "There will be an investigation." "That's not enough," Evelyn called out. "She tried to ruin his life." "We want accountability," someone else shouted. Lowell nodded slowly. "Then we'll do it. Publicly. Transparently. And thoroughly." That night, no arrests were made. But something more important happened. The next day, Avery held a community meeting. It was standing room only. The duffel bag, the one meant to destroy him, sat at the center of the room. A symbol, a lesson, a warning. Avery stood before them, not as a judge, but as a man who had tasted the injustice he'd spent his life fighting. He spoke plainly. "This isn't just about me. It's about what can happen to any of us when bias walks the streets with a badge." He called for an independent review board, mandatory body cams, ongoing racial bias training, legislative oversight. And just when the night seemed to close, Officer Brenner walked in not in uniform, but in civilian clothes. She stepped forward. Her voice shook. "I was wrong." The room froze. "I let my fear make the decision for me. I profiled a man I didn't know because of his skin and his car at his neighborhood. And I almost destroyed him." Avery studied her, then nodded once. "It's a start." Brenner announced she would step down from duty while participating in a 6-month reform program co-developed with the community. She committed to being part of the change. It wouldn't undo what had happened, but it opened a door, one not easily closed again. Weeks later, the Maplewood Accountability Ordinance passed unanimously, granting oversight powers to a civilian board and launching mandatory transparency reviews of all traffic stops. And Judge Avery Coleman? He returned to his courtroom, head high, spine straight. But now, when he ruled not just with the law, but with the lived experience of the very injustice he once thought he was above. The system had tried to erase him. Instead, it amplified him. And for every person who watched that night, who raised their phone, who stood in the street, they knew one thing. This time, justice didn't come from a bench. It came from the people who refused to be silent. And it would echo far beyond Maplewood Heights.